And we are recording. Hello, everyone. And this is Deidre Kindred, your nurse advocate, coming to you today with another very special friend and guest on Health Chats Among Friends. So today I get the pleasure of talking with a good friend, David Dowd, with Aleve Care Hospice. Hi, David.
Hey, Deidre. Hello, everybody.
That is a beautiful background.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, we gutted this building. It was built in 1953, and there was a primary care physician here in Mansfield that had it originally and built it originally, and we gutted it and kept that mid-century modern look, and we love coming to work here.
Oh, that's awesome. It's a beautiful office. I visited before and it's just beautiful before COVID.
That's right.
Yes. So David, how are you today?
I'm doing well. I'm doing really well. We're helping a lot of people and hopefully making a lot of difference here in our community.
So tell us a little bit about your company and why you thought you wanted to go into the arena of hospice care.
Yeah, absolutely. So I spent a little over 20 years in the healthcare industry, and a lot of that was focused on medical devices, sales leadership positions. I ended up as a regional director for the Southeast United States, and just really had a career of going into surgeries or overseeing teams that did that, and making a difference in the surgical room with the physicians and the patients and giving them a better chance for success. And it's something that I really enjoyed throughout my career. And I got to the point where I was just thinking about a way that I could make even a bigger difference, really in a different way in my community. And I've been here in Tarrant County and Arlington, Mansfield area since 1978 when my folks moved from Plano over here. And so I really feel like this is my community. And I got some great education from the multi-billion-dollar companies that I work for, like Medtronic and St. Jude and Abbott. And a lot of that education really was around the aging population in the United States. And we're going to see so many people every day turning 65 for the next 20 years. And there are so many wonderful ways to help out that segment of our population. And when I started looking at starting my own thing, like I've always dreamt of doing since I was a kid, I was just really drawn towards hospice. And with the encouragement of a good friend of mine from high school, Craig Porter, who has a similar business and has joined me in this endeavor, I decided to leave the corporate world and give hospice a go and make a difference in the community that way.
Wow, that's awesome. Well, I wanted to bring you on tonight and, have a discussion about some of the myths about hospice care. As a nurse advocate and a nurse that used to work in a hospital and a couple other places, I always hear lots of strange things about people's misconceptions about hospice care. And I'll share a really, really quick story. My mom, at the age of 55, decided to go on hospice because she had end-stage colon cancer and then a couple other debilitating disease processes. But that was the main culprit that, drove her to, okay, let's look into hospice care. Mm-hmm. And it was amazing. The care that she received was phenomenal. I'm a cardiac nurse. Heart, lungs, kidneys. I got you. But the compassion and the care and the ability for the family to really come in and be able to say their goodbyes, and the nurses and the doctor that was caring for her really cared about her comfort in her homegoing. So I hear so many stories from other people when it comes to be that time that you have to talk about the option of hospice care, and they are terrified sometimes. So I wanted to bring you on for us just to have a conversation about some of the myths you've heard, some of the myths I've heard, and how we can extinguish those myths.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's so important. And what you do with your nurse advocates is fantastic, because a lot of what you do is educating people and assisting them in that process. And I admire that so much, Deidre. One of the things that's critically important to me and that I've put into our mission statement is that we want to educate the communities that we serve on the benefits that you really can get from hospice. And I think a lot of people get really scared of that word. Here's the big H word. And I understand that, because they haven't been educated on what hospice really is and what it isn't. And when I started looking at providing hospice care to this community back in 2017, that was one of the things that really stuck out to me, is that we just don't really understand what it is. And even going back to naming the business that we have here, AlevCare, I looked at a lot of the different names of different hospice companies and wanted something that was really genuine. Because my dad always tells me, the only way to act genuine is to be genuine. You can probably fake it for a little while, but sooner or later people are going to figure it out, and probably sooner. And when I looked at synonyms of palliative and synonyms of hospice, the word alleviate kept coming up. And I played with that a little bit and really landed on what I think is a wonderful name and genuinely describes what we do. I mean, we are AlevCare Hospice, and we alleviate pain, we alleviate discomfort. We work tirelessly to do that. And we work very compassionately to alleviate concerns and stress, not only for the patients, which a lot of people understand, but also for the family members. And so even that's one of the big myths that you see in hospice. So yeah, I'm excited to be able to spend a little bit of time with you and educate people on some of the most common myths in hospice, and we can talk about that a little bit, and of course we're always here to answer questions beyond that.
Absolutely. I believe education is the key, and it's that pre-planning. So one of the myths that I've heard is that I had a lady tell me, oh, they're just going to put them on a morphine drip and just let them go. And that is totally not true. So talk a little bit about how you guys go about individualizing the care for the clients you serve.
Yeah, it is. It's individualized care. It's a team approach. So we have, you'll have a medical director, an RN, a registered nurse, case manager that would be involved. And then you also have the options to have hospice aides to help out with daily living, like bathing and shampooing. You have the option to have a chaplain involved, and you might think of that as kind of like a military chaplain, where they're educated on all belief systems or non-belief systems, and then they are there to meet you where you are and provide comfort and care around those beliefs that you have. And then we also have licensed medical social workers as well. They're fantastic with grief counseling and the processes. They can even help out with things like burial arrangement concerns and stresses when you're just really not prepared. So we take this interdisciplinary approach and individualize the care to what that particular patient and family needs from our team.
And that's just amazing. So many people have that mindset that, oh, that's it. They're just going to just let them, pass on, and they're uncomfortable. So a lot of times I have to educate people that, and I hate to say it like this, but they're like, they're not feeding them. Yeah. I know I had a client before, and then, so talk a little bit about how, and I try to tell people the system basically kind of starts to shut down where you don't have that innate feeling of hunger, so to speak. Yeah. It's a lot of education. So
yeah,
much
it
we
is.
can talk about.
It's a tremendous amount of education.
Yeah.
And a lot of that education clinically will come from our nursing team. We've got, of course, registered nurses and LVNs, licensed vocational nurses, that will educate the families and comfort them on understanding what their loved one is going through or what they are going through and why that's occurring. And yeah, with hospice, there's so much choice that's involved. And even when you talk about food, they do have a right to choose not to eat. And sometimes that's because they aren't hungry, and sometimes it's because they're just really not interested. And I leave a lot of the clinical conversations around that to our nursing team. I've never wanted to be a nurse more in my life than right now for the last 4 years, but I leave that to our nursing team.
Yes, yes. So basically the family becomes your part of your client group, because I always think about it's not just the patient, it's also their family members
Absolutely,
too.
yeah. There are parts of that team that I just mentioned. Yeah, you add in the family member as well. They're a part of the team and they're a part of the decision process. And we set up a plan of care that's individualized for each person, and that team member can be, or that family member can be involved in that plan of care as regularly as they would like.
Yes, yes. Tell me a crazy story about one of your,
Oh goodness. Well,
clients.
I've got so many of them. When I just first got into this business, I I was just floored. It was actually with our very first patient. He was a veteran of World War II. His name is Raymond. He's actually in our brochures. His family's been kind enough to allow us to use his image in our brochures. Everybody loves Raymond. And
Great show. Great show.
and yeah, and we're really focused on veterans. We have involved ourselves in a program that's a combination of the National Hospice and Palliative Care Organization and the VA, the Veterans Administration. They have a program called We Honor Veterans, and that's not a requirement for hospice agencies. It's one that we've chosen to be a part of. I come from a very strong military family. They're almost all in the Navy and Air Force. Actually, my cousin was Navy and Air Force, both. Put in a lot of time, and I think it's important that we honor our heroes of America at this
Absolutely.
time in their lives. Yeah, and their spouses as well, and their family members. And so there's special things that we do through that program. There's continuing education that our team is a part of to understand some of the things that our veterans may be going through at the end of their lives that other people wouldn't necessarily be going through. And so we're educated around that, and we involve other veterans to assist with that. Our director of nurses has been a nurse for over 40 years. She's been in hospice for over 20 years, and she's ex-Air Force herself. So it's very important to our team.
That's amazing. I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
So
and let me tell you, so there's another one. I've got to tell you that
okay.
I ran into a couple probably at the end of last year, and I went over to their house and visited with them and their daughter, and they had been married. They had been married for 72 years.
They need an award.
I don't know that you run into that very often. That is a long, long time.
They need an
that
award.
that was a pretty amazing story, right? Yeah.
I love it because, you get so attached with your clients and their family members, and it really becomes like an extension of your family sometimes. And it's just kind of like, oh my goodness.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There's some other myths that are, I think, really common. And if we want to continue on with educating on some of the myths, right. One of the most common myths that you hear is that if you enter into hospice, then you've given up on life. And that is not true. It's just completely incorrect. And it's really kind of dangerous too, because there's so many people that if they feel that way, honestly, they're going to miss out on an opportunity to receive some incredible care that can help to alleviate pain and alleviate stress. We could even improve some symptoms of depression during these final weeks or months of life. And it's important to understand, what's true and what's a myth, because one of the biggest things we get in feedback from family members is we wish we would have known what hospice could provide sooner than we did.
Right,
we wish we would have entered into hospice at an earlier time. So this format and this forum to be able to engage the community through you, Deidre, is fantastic, and I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm enjoying it. So do you guys, so explain the difference between inpatient versus at home, because I know some people think like, oh, I have to go to a facility, and that's not necessarily true.
No, it's not. You're absolutely right. So there are 4 levels of hospice care, and the first one is routine care, and it's what you might expect it to be. You've got a loved one that's going to get regular visits, and they may be in a home, in an apartment. They could be in a facility, an assisted living facility, a nursing home, a private care home. They could be in any one of these number of places to receive routine care. There's general
memory care.
I'm sorry?
Memory care.
Correct. Yeah, memory care. Absolutely. Yeah, dementia is a huge portion of the population that utilizes hospice pretty successfully, actually. And you've got general inpatient care, so that's where you're seeing someone either in a hospital or you're at what people might refer to as a hospice house. So there's certain qualifications that you'd have to meet to be able to go to a hospice house, and there are a few around the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And then you have continuous care, or you might think about it as crisis care. So when you have an uncontrollable symptom, maybe it's nausea, maybe it's pain, and we would actually take you from routine care to continuous care or crisis care, and manage that symptom with a nurse at the bedside that sits there 24 hours a day, and they work in shifts, of course, until that symptom is managed, or potentially until that patient has passed. And then we have respite care, and respite care provides some really fantastic relief sometimes to a caregiver that may be overwhelmed and may need to just catch a breath to be able to provide that daily care that their loved one needs. So we can put the patient into respite care. The hospice agency is responsible for those payments. Maybe there's a family member that's getting married and the patient isn't able to go, but the family member or the caregiver would really like to attend that wedding. We can provide respite care by putting them into a facility for up to 4 nights, and that can take place, and there's no expense to the patient. So you can receive hospice care wherever you call home. So the difference between inpatient care, you would be at an inpatient facility that's specifically dealing with hospice, and then anywhere else that you call home, you can receive hospice care.
That is amazingly wonderful information. I mean it, because so many people have that misconception that, oh, I have to go into a facility. So they gave my mom the choice whether she wanted to be at home or she wanted to be in a standing facility. She chose to go to a standing facility. So it's great that that patient is involved when they can be in the decision-making process.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that, kind of brings up another myth, and that would be that people misunderstand that once they choose hospice, they can't ever go back, or they can't ever seek curative therapies or curative treatments. Right. And they absolutely can. It's always a choice. So you can leave hospice care anytime you like. And really what you're doing when you're talking about Medicare is you're turning Medicare Part A into the Medicare hospice benefit. And I love that it's named a benefit, because it truly can be. It's delivered the right way, and you get that care when you need it. And that hospice care can be stopped at any time. Maybe your condition changes. Maybe you improve a little bit. Maybe there's a new therapy that has come out that you want to see if it will work for you. And you can absolutely stop. It's one document that's signed. You revoke that benefit. You go seek that aggressive curative therapy, and then you can always come back to hospice if you're still appropriate for this level of care, and you can come back onto hospice services at a later date.
That's awesome. We're definitely going to have you back so we can delve into some more topics, because this is exciting to me to be able to provide this education to the public that we don't normally get the opportunity to. So if someone has some more questions or wanted to reach out to you, find out more about your services, how could they reach you?
Yeah, it's very easy to look us up, AlevCare Hospice, AlevCare. You can call our office number. It's answered 24 hours a day. That number is 469-630-2538. We're located in downtown historic Mansfield. We cover all of Tarrant County and surrounding counties. You can also look us up online at www.alevcare.com. It'll have all the contact information on that as well. And you can reach out to us anytime.
Awesome. Well, David, thank you so much for your time. We will definitely have to have you back so we can elaborate more on the myths of hospice and, some of the services that hospice care does provide, so we can just help keep educating people and keeping them aware of the services that are out there. My name is Deidre Kendrick. I'm a nurse advocate, educator, and navigator. We love helping you navigate the healthcare system by decreasing your stress and increasing your understanding. Again, David, one more time, tell people how they can reach you.
Oh, they can reach us at 469-630-2538 or look us up at alevcare.com.
Awesome.
Thanks so much for having me on, Deidre. I think you're doing a fantastic job.
I've even learned something tonight too. So thank you. Yeah. All right, David. Well, you have a great, awesome night, and we'll see you guys back next time on Health Chats Among Friends. Have a great evening.
Bye-bye.